I found myself around 17, just before I was starting to turn 18, because in England you could drink at 18. So obviously I had to spend the first 3 years of my drinking career doing it completely illegally, and it was easy to get into clubs and stuff, so it was never really an issue. But as I was getting towards 18, when it was going to be legal to drink and go out and party and stuff, I kind of started to step back and kind of look at myself through other people's eyes. Look at myself through my parents' eyes or through my friends' eyes, and my coach's eyes as well. And try and view myself, how they would see me. And I just kind of started thinking to myself, I'm sure that my parents aren't, that they're not proud of how I'm turning out. I mean, I was doing good things. I was at college and I was training. I was fighting regularly, in competitions and stuff. But then there were elements of my life that I know they would have been proud of, and the reputation that I was starting to develop in the clubs that I was going to and stuff. And I started thinking to myself, is this how I want people to view me? Do I want people to look at me and go, oh, you should have seen that guy the other week, he was hammered drunk and he beat the hell out of this dude? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not that person. I don't want people to view me like that. So then I start thinking to myself, what do I need to do to get myself to the situation where I'm happy to look people in the eye and know they're looking back at me and have respect for me, and be proud of me, Now, I don't see my parents very often now because they live back in the UK, so, when I go back and I see them for the first time, I know they're proud of me. I know they can look me in the eye and they go, you're doing a good thing, and coming out and speaking to you guys as well, I know that makes them proud, so that makes me feel good about myself, So it's just being able to look your friends and your family in the eye and know that they think a lot of you, and they think as much of you as you think of them, That was for me.
So much time together that you're either gonna love them or hate them, and your friends, you love them. But as I got older, I looked at it, and a lot of my friends that I hung out with, my friends that like my brothers, my real good friends, they'll still be my friends. I won't engage in the dumb crap we used to do, but they'll still be my friends. If they need something within my means of giving it to them, I'll do it. But a lot of them, if I had the choice, I probably would have not made friends with them just because of the decisions they make. And now I choose who my friends are. Like Chris, for example. When I met him, it was my choice. Are we going to be friends? And yeah, Chris is a very good guy. He takes care. I like him. He likes me. I hope he likes me. But I chose for him to be my friend. And it wasn't until I moved that it really shed light on the things that I was doing back then, how stupid they were, and like how Brandon said, how ignorant it was. I used to go back and I used to just see that, like Brandon said, nothing changed with them. The stuff they were doing in high school, they were still doing. They were drinking, doing drugs, getting into fights every single weekend, Friday and Saturday, back to back, doing the same thing, getting into trouble. And every time you get into a fight, this guy's friend wants to fight with you now. And now your friend wants to fight with him. So now you want to fight with his friend for fighting with your friend. It's just a spider web, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the further I separated myself from that, or the longer I did it, it really shed light on how really dumb and immature that really was. So you might not be able to get away from it, but at some point, just try to go out on your own when you guys get up to age 18 or whatever, and become yourself, find yourself, I guess.
I know for me, what really started to separate me again was wrestling, and friends are there to encourage you, and they're either going to encourage you to make the right decisions or the wrong decisions. And just like Brandon was saying, a lot of my friends had nothing to lose, and it wasn't until I joined the wrestling team and I had friends that encouraged me in the right direction, and we had goals, and we talked about our goals all the time. And when I was in high school, everybody wanted to be a state champion. Now, you talked about being a state champion every single practice. Every single practice. Being a state champion was like, being elected as president. That's how we talked about it. That was winning everything there is to win in life at that time. We talked about it like that, in that regard, And then when we had that encouragement going back and forth. Oh man, we should really do this thing. And then when I went to hang out with my other friends, we didn't have that camaraderie. There was no encouragement. There was no bond There was no common interest anymore, you know? And then we just further separate. So think about that.
I guess when it sunk in was every day I was going over there to clean the mats and do my work, and I had to stay before and after practice. I think everybody had the same story, you know? You kind of see, when you alienate yourself, or when you're forced to alienate yourself, and you can kind of look outside the box, you see all of those guys getting in trouble, or going to jail, or doing bad-ish, and just doing the wrong stuff. Those people now are working minimum wage jobs or delivering pizza, you know? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes that's the hustle. That's kind of what you have to do. But that's what they were doing in high school, and that's what they're doing now, you know? That's for sure not where I wanted to be. And if you just honestly open a notebook, write down some goals, and think of a timeline where you want to be and what you want to do, and then do the same thing on the next page, timeline and where you want to go, what you want to do with your friends, compare the two, and it really puts it in perspective for you of what your choices are going to be and where you need to stay on task at. Does that make sense? I guess for me, just being at that gym every day, cleaning mats and just doing something I didn't want to do, but then realizing I'm not getting in trouble, I'm not going to jail this weekend, I'm not stuck across the street at Juvie Hall, that made a huge impact on my life, that I didn't even be doing any of that stuff anymore at all.
Me and my brothers hate each other, we fight each other all the time, and then you see like, just me like seeing my dad and how he has to deal with that, him losing his only brother, you know what I mean, like what he would give to have his brother, and it's like, you know what I mean, and then I look at my brothers and it's like, man, what, you know, we're horsing around, and it's like, we don't even care about each other, and then, you know, seeing my dad and what he went through, you know what I mean, like, you kind of take a step back and it's like, man, you know, he just lost his best friend, you know, he just lost his only brother, and we're sitting here kind of just like taking each other for granted, you know, so I was, you know, really thankful I had brothers in my life, and, you know, I kind of stepped aside and just started thinking, like, decisions when I was younger, like, you know, I want to make my uncle proud, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I find myself in those situations, and it's like, well, I can make this decision right now, you know, that would probably be fun, but what would he think? He probably, you know, and then sometimes I'm like, man, if I do that, my uncle, he would smack the crap out of me right now. He'd be like, what are you doing, stupid? You know what I mean? It's just, so it's funny, you know, like I always, you know, there's like you were saying before, that you're here, you know, there's people that care about you. You know, your family and your friends care about you. That's why you're here. And for me, it's like, man, I don't want to disappoint my uncle. I don't want to disappoint my parents. You know, like it's more, you know, it's more about just like, at least for me, somebody who really cares about you. It's like somebody you look up to. You're like, you know, I don't want to disappoint them. You know what I mean? Like I can make the right choice. I can make the wrong choice, you know, right now. I think that might be the right choice right now, but you know, in the big picture, you're not making anybody else happy. So I kind of started thinking about other people.